back by popular demand. I, the Scottish voice guy, am here to help soothe your way through the next few days of turmoil. Because with 2 days down and more than 60 matches yet to be covered over the next 2 weekends, this has to be day 3 of the 11th Alliance Tournament.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the 11th Alliance Tournament. We are on day 3. My name is CCP Soundwave, and we have 2 full weekends of complete studio coverage. We're so happy to be back. I'm not alone. I do have a few friends with me. Let's get a quick round of introductions. CCP Dolan, how are you today?
Doing great. Ready for some Alliance Tournament action.
What Alliance Tournament is this for you? Is it the 3rd?
This is the 3rd Alliance Tournament that I will be involved in. I was also did the New Eden Open just earlier this year.
True. And Bacchanalian, first time?
Yep, first time here. Not first time in Iceland, but first time doing trading commentary. So.
But you've been doing the SCL as well, right?
Correct. We've done three weekends of SCL now, so we've done commentary for that. A little bit of experience in tournament commentary that way. A
lot of people following, a lot of people watching, or?
We've seen numbers about as high as 1,000 people at once. So yeah, over the course of the weekend, like 6,000 unique. So a fair number of people. Hopefully we get some more a little more attention.
Any of the kind of Alliance Tournament New Eden Open standout teams that are also in the SCL?
Absolutely. We've seen Pandemic Legion, for instance, even Shadu here fielded a team for us. We've seen some Hydra teams and Exodus. Rooks and Kings had a team in there. So some people that we recognize from the actual tournament test as well.
Awesome. Welcome back, Shadu.
Thank you. Good to be back.
You've been absent.
I have. I was unfortunately on holidays last time around. I was thinking of you while at the beach.
Sounds tough. Sounds tough.
No, I wasn't, but.
Fair enough. So you're back now. Who's calling the shots at PL if you're gone?
Well, actually, this year, for the first time since '87, Seamus Orsaz is back, leading Pandemic Legion's tournament team. So we have great hopes, finally. Since the scrubs are out of the way and Elise Randolph is not in danger of flying out of bounds. It's good.
All right, cool. So we have, of course, these wonderful guests here. We have commentators. We have a Russian localized stream. So if you are Russian or if you just enjoy foreign languages, then switch over to the Russian stream and see our 2 awesome developers there. We're also going to be giving away a few prizes, of course. We have a word contest. So over the next 4 days of the Alliance Tournament, we will see randomly a few words just flashing on the screen, and you kind of have to collect all of them and put them together and send them in, and you could win an Alienware X51, which, as far as I know, is the best computer on the planet. It's the one NASA uses for their space programs right now, so it's exciting, so yeah. Isn't it?
Yeah, it's actually what beat Garry Kasparov. People think it was Deep Blue, but Deep Blue is just a box with that inside.
The X51 inside, yeah. All right. All right, so of course, we're on the 2nd weekend now. What was kind of the standout ships last weekend?
I think the big headline ship of last weekend has to be the Dominics. It went nearly undefeated, only defeated by other Dominicses or when flown by really bad teams.
What were some of the really bad ones then? There was one that was a little bit awkward, wasn't there?
Yeah, well, so a few of the teams were a little bit understaffed. Some of them weren't quite following the rules, missed the cutoff date for Alliance Tournament membership. Yeah. So they had to bring T1 haulers. They fixed that, came back for the next weekend with the real setup. A few teams also had to bring only like 6 pilots. So.
But wasn't there like an awkward moment with a guy who was in a Dominix and micro jump drived out of his Logi range and
into the hostile team? Yeah, I think that was the Moist team, right?
Yeah.
Right at the beginning, he did a brilliant execution of a micro jump drive. Unfortunately, he landed 20 kilometers from the hostiles, 150 kilometers from his logistics, and just proceeded to die very quickly, which was great television, but not so good for a tournament team.
That's piloting. All right, so we are seeing the Dominics, like you guys said. It was a really standout ship last weekend. For people who are new, what does the Dominics do?
Well, it's a pretty heavy-duty ship in terms of bulk. It's a battleship, so puts out a fair bit of damage. It's a drone boat, so it's not reliant on guns. The ship itself doesn't really have to be in a specific range of its target. It can drop drones and go wherever it wants. And has multiple loadouts of drones, which can do damage at varying distances, varying damage types. So it has damage selectability, and it can really kind of change up what it wants based on the scenario. It also has bonuses to drone tracking, so it's really good at picking off support ships, and a lot of times can take frigates right off the field before logistics can get a chance to wrap them up.
What's really good about the Dominics as well is that it has the ability to fit either an armor tank or a shield tank, which kind of gives it great versatility. And it either does really good damage with damage mods in the lows and shield mods in the mids, or it tanks really well with good armor resistances and all the rest. So it's kind of a versatile ship that's able to fit to multiple different types of teams. It can kite, it can tank, it can tinker, and it can rush.
What are some of the kind of pros and cons of using the drone weapons?
Well, when you have drones, you're particularly sentries that you'll primarily see a lot of the Dominics is using. You drop them and then you have to leave them behind. They're susceptible to things like bombs, smart bombs. They also don't really give you a lot of position like you couldn't, for instance, on TQ Warp Off. Of course, warping is not something you do in the Alliance tournament, so they just get a huge buff here. But generally, that sort of detached damage can open you up to some sort of weaknesses, but there's just so much versatility in not relying on your ship's positioning to get damage done.
It's interesting you said that as well. Are there any ships that we're seeing that are particularly good for the Alliance tournament format, but maybe not so good on TQ? Or what about the other way around, for example?
I think, well, in the Alliance tournament, you'll see ships that are sort of okay on TQ.
Yeah.
They're decent, but then they really, really shine in the Alliance tournaments. Ships like the Maulus, which is just so effective for its points, and damps are so strong in the Alliance tournament.
Yeah. So are we seeing like Dominic's fleets rampaging around TQ these days?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, there are many Dominic's compositions. I mean, I think what holds them back on TQ in 0-0 in particular is bombs. Yeah. Since big battleships in a big ball are quite easy prey to pizza and other organizations who like to destroy a lot of battleships at once.
So it's interesting also bombs as well, right? So are stealth bombers kind of the opposite? We don't see them in the Alliance tournament, but we see them a lot on TQ.
Well, we used to see them a lot in the Alliance tournament. The meta sort of shifted. We actually saw the resurgence of a few bombers. We saw very, very few in the Alliance tournament, 10.
Yes.
But last weekend we saw several teams taking 2 or 3 bombers, potentially for just the long-range torpedo DPS, and also to potentially clear off drones.
I think the execution of dropping bombs is harder when there's less of you to do it, and some of these teams may not be confident in their ability to successfully deploy bombs. But I'm curious to see a little later in the tournament. We've seen SCL. We saw a Tinker setup broken by void bombs. That's something we haven't seen in the Alliance tournament yet. But Alpha is the capacitor of a logistics ship, and can then leave the rest of the team vulnerable to damage. So I'd be curious to see. We may see some of that, and it'll be really interesting.
Yeah, I think we're going to see bombers later on. Maybe this weekend, probably next. I'd say most teams are definitely going to bring a couple of bombers in the final weekend, just to either clear off drones or to put some void bombs into the mix and break Tinkers.
So what is this Tinker setup?
So a Tinker setup is when several ships basically share their capacitor using capacitor transfers. We've actually nerfed it slightly in the Alliance tournament versus a competition like the SCL. You're only allowed to fit 1 energy transfer per ship. And they share capacitor and then run local tanks and just basically run that basically infinitely. And you can just get so much rep because capacitor chains create cap from nowhere because EVE Online doesn't follow the laws of thermodynamics in any way.
Yeah, actually in the Tinker setups you don't really generate cap as such. Every one of the ships runs its local capacitor booster. But what it does allow to do is the ship that is being primaried, for example, the logistic ship, it gets enough gap to run the ASB, the auxiliary shield booster, without charges in it, and which uses tremendous amount of cap, but gives massive boosts as well. and that's kind of where the Tinker setup was pioneered by Black Horizon and Gubbins in the tournaments last year or the year before that, and kind of gets its name from its Dota counterpart.
Yeah. So what's some of the kind of standout ships for a Tinker setup? What are the ideal local rep transferring ships?
Well, you typically want to see like 3 large battleships. Then you're going to have a backup support of either a T3 logistics, which is exceptionally popular in the SCL, and then you're going to see potentially even a regular logistics in addition to the T3 logistics or in replacement of, and then you're also going to typically see like a Lynx resist ship. So like the Volter is a popular setup for like running 3 golems.
I just wait for Michael Bolton to answer so I can counter him, because actually most thinkers you don't want to run a battleship and you want to run a cruiser or a Tech 2 cruiser or something like that, a drone boat like a Navy Vexor or something like Ishtars and so on and so forth. But yes, absolutely, logistic ships, either T3s or regular logistic ships that are able to tank a lot and put reps out as well.
All right, well, we do have our first match coming up in about 4 or 5 minutes here. We do have a little bit of stats for you guys. It is Scum versus Sleeper Social Club. Sleeper Social Club, only a 2-year-old alliance. Scum has been around for about 4 years, as we see, and they're not particularly big alliances. 165 versus 317. And they are, of course, both in the losers bracket.
Yep. Actually, a little bit of a graphic mess up there. Sleeper Social Club lost to Verge of Collapse, the winners of Alliance Tournament 10, not themselves. So they got knocked down into the losers bracket by one of the best teams in the tournament. So yes. I really, really like their chances in this match.
Do you think Sleeper Social Club is a very good team, or?
I think they're going to have a strong showing. Like losing to Verge of Collapse is not something to be ashamed about.
Absolutely. I'm curious to see this match. I think in the past, Scum being one of the low-sec alliances, we've seen a lot of low-sec alliances that are very good at what they do in low-sec kind of struggle in the tournament. So I also kind of favor Sleeper Social Club. I think, I don't know why, it just seems maybe a jinx on the low-sec alliances, but I've yet to see one do, maybe 1 or 2 has done particularly well, but most of them seem to fail fairly early on. So I think I agree that Sleeper Social Club is going to be the stronger team.
Yeah, I mean, both teams are facing elimination, so they're probably going to come out with their best ships. I don't know if either one of those teams lost their flagships yet.
I believe Scum lost their flagship.
Right. So we might see some flagships. Now would be the time to come out with them. You're down to the wire and you have to go.
I mean, last chance, so now is absolutely the time. All right, so I think we're going to go to the match. So you guys all favor Sleeper Social Club.
Sure.
I think so.
You know what? There's nothing like a bandwagon, so I'm going to jump on that. And I think that the Sleeper Social Club will win this one as well, but there's really only one way of finding out.